Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Olivia Towers podcast. I really hope you enjoy this one. If you do, make sure to screenshot it and share it on social media. If it's on Instagram, it's Towers432. If it's Facebook, it's Olivia Towers Dressage. Also, if you're listening to this on iTunes, I would love you to leave a review, and I can't wait to see what you think of it. Welcome back to Tackroom Tales of Towers. This is episode 5, and we sit down with Olivia Oakley, who has done some incredible things in the equestrian world already. She's been to 5 European Championships. She trained her own horse from scratch up to Grand Prix. He is still out competing with other riders and doing absolutely amazingly. She's also got her more recent horse, Rocky, and she has trained her from just backing her now to working at PSG. This girl is so determined, so I just admire her so much. She's an absolutely beautiful rider. But the reason this interview really hit me quite hard, and I think I got quite emotional while I was interviewing her and talking to her, is because I have grown up alongside Olivia in the equestrian world. So we both did young riders together, juniors together, we're the same age. And I used to always compare myself to her. When we were riding, I'd think, I wish I could ride like her. Then she went to Carl Hester's, and I guess there was part of me that was like, I wish I could get that opportunity. And I used to be quite jealous of her, and I didn't see the other side of the story, the things where the adversity she's had, and it just made me so compassionate and have so much love and admiration for this girl, because what she's gone through in her short journey already, there's a lot of curveballs that have been thrown at her, and I think it's just admirable how she has dealt with them. I also love how honest she is in this interview. She talks about her regrets, which I sometimes think a lot of people don't like opening up to, and she's just really honest. So in this interview, we talk about how she got into horses. We speak about when she started working for Carl, and she's so honest about that experience and how hard it was for her. And then, the regret she's had with moving away from Carl's, going to Hartbury College, going and getting her A-levels, and just so many different things. So I really hope you guys enjoy this one. If you do, make sure to screenshot it and write us both a message on there. You can either DM us if you don't want to do it publicly, or you can leave it on your stories on Instagram. That's always the easiest way. But I really, really, really want you guys to spread this one because, yeah, like I said, it hit me in the feelings. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. I feel like your story is like, so, I don't know if it's because I know you, but there's like so much.
Yeah, I know. When you said about doing this, I was like, yeah, maybe.
I know everyone's a bit like, I'm not sure.
It's one of those things, isn't it?
Yeah, are you ready just to get going? Because we can
yeah,
have
absolutely fine.
between if you need one or whatever.
Right.
But the first thing we need to talk about is how you got into horses, like how you became a rider.
Yeah. Okay. So for my 6th birthday, my parents paid for me to have a lesson down at our local riding school.
Yeah.
So I went to that, and I think I was probably hooked right from stepping foot onto the yard.
Yeah.
And then my parents paid for me to keep having lessons at the riding school. And I was always that strange kid that would be there in the wind and the rain and the snow and basically any weather. Yeah. I would be there, which meant I had quite a few private lessons, to be fair, which worked quite nicely.
Are your parents horsey at all?
Say that again?
Are your parents horsey at all?
Mum rode when she was younger a little bit, but nothing serious, just sort of happy hacking and doing a little bit of pony club. dad probably hadn't even really patted a horse before I was involved with them. He's very good now though. He can hold them and put boots on and put a saddle on and
So yeah, you started at the riding school, and then after that, like, how did it progress a little bit further? Did you stay doing that for a while?
so I stayed at the riding school for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And then my parents bought me my first pony. And at this point I was very much into my show jumping.
Oh really? I didn't know this.
Yeah, very much into my show jumping. The first pony, however, was not into show jumping.
Oh gosh.
And I spent a fair few nights in hospital with concussion. At, at which point the owner of the riding school was she show jumped herself, and we sort of went on the hunt and ended up getting a 138 jumping pony.
Oh wow.
So I did a bit of British show jumping when I was about 10. And then he unfortunately developed kissing spine.
Yeah.
And he stopped jumping and ended up having time out, and I got lent a dressage horse basically, and quite enjoyed it. And then when he obviously came back into work after having all that time off, the vet at the time said, look, realistically he's not going to jump, but he can do dressage. And then I went and did quite well with trailblazers and sort of that sort of stuff, unaffiliated, when I was probably between 10 and 11, well 10 and 12 it must have been, 10 and 11. And I'm quite a competitive person, and because I did quite well I got quite hooked.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where we sort of had achieved, my pony club instructor at the time sort of said we'd achieved everything that realistically we were going to do as a combination.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting my first, then what I'd call proper pony. And she had done a little bit of FEI stuff.
Yeah.
She was not a world beater at all. She was training at medium. And I could ride through a pony FEI, but she was never going to be a team horse or anything, team pony or anything like that. But what she did do is teach me a huge amount, and I was very lucky at 12 to then go over to Holland to compete in one of their sort of national shows. And then from there then it was a case of, the pony was lovely but was never going to really get any more than sort of 66-67% at FEI. And my parents hadn't got the money to go and buy a pony that was European team caliber.
Yeah.
So I can't remember who it was, but someone recommended to them that we went down the young horse route. And it was sort of a case of, as well, with the ponies, I did go to one of the sort of viewing days, and I won't mention any names, but someone who possibly shouldn't have said what they did say to my parents said something along the lines of that if I ever rode and got put on anything decent, I'd never be able to get a tune out of it. When I was about 12 years old.
Wow.
And she did apologise to me later on in life. But it was at that point I decided that actually the pony scene wasn't really what the route I wanted to go down. And we went out with my trainer at the time, who was Carl Hester, and went and saw Rio. And when I first sat on him, I wasn't particularly I didn't fall in love, shall we say.
How old was Rio when you first sat on him?
He was just coming 5.
Oh, so really young.
Yeah, I think he'd been back to about 3 months. He was with the Asselines.
Yeah.
And Heather Saddington Hyde at New Charlotte had bred him. And it was only when I hacked him down the road and he started piaffing because a lorry was there, that I, at me being 13 years old, was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And funnily enough, I fell in love with him after that. But it was a lot of people told my parents that they were very, very stupid, and that he was a professional's horse and this, that and the other. And me being 13 and naive used to take him cantering around fields and fall off and have a lovely time, basically.
So you trained him from 5, really, and it's like, it sounds like a really mature thing to make the choice to kind of not go down the pony route and to look to the future. Did you did you consciously make that decision, or do you think it's sort of just, you just didn't like that world, you just thought, I don't want to be part of that?
I think it was a lot to do with the fact that I had people around me that were very much, look to the future. And ponies, for so many kids is great and sets them up for so much. But I think for me, the goal was always to ride down the centre line at Grand Prix.
At 12.
At 12, I know. Big dreams. You know what it's like.
You had Rio at 5, and
yeah,
you're 13 and he's 5. How did you go about like training him and getting the help that you needed with him?
Well, I mean, I spent quite a few years out of control. I remember doing my first dressage test on him, and I came out of it. It was a prelim, just unaffiliated down the road, and coming out of it and being adamant that the arena was too small because I left it about 5 times.
Oh
no. Obviously it wasn't too small, I just couldn't steer.
Yeah.
I couldn't ride one side of him, bless him. And I trained with Carl Hester, and then moved on site. I was at an eventers yard at that point, and then I moved on site to Ben St John James and Roland Tong's yard, which was sort of where everything started to progress. I got a little bit more control, and we sort of worked up through the beginning of the levels, and then I was really lucky to be selected for national training with him, where I had some lessons with Gareth Hughes, which was brilliant. And then from there, I got the opportunity came up that I had a lesson with Carl Hester. When I must have been 15, 16. And I sort of said to Mum about how amazing it would be to work for him. And when I went for the lesson, my darling mother had said to him, if you ever need any holiday cover, can I ship her off to you?
Good old mother.
Yeah, exactly. Always rely on her to say things I don't want to say. And then I went, it all sort of happened, and I went to him literally pretty much the day after I went to my prom. Once I finished school, I was meant to go for a week, and then a week became 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks became 3 weeks, and then I didn't leave. And
so,
obviously,
is there any doubt in your mind about like pursuing that? I know it sounds like it kind of just like happened without you realizing, but beforehand, had you sort of thought about what you wanted to do after you'd done like your GCSEs, or had you always like looked towards the horses?
I think a lot of the time going through my school years, I did want to go down sort of the forensic psychology route, because it's something I find really fascinating, and like anyone who knows me knows that I watch nothing on TV but crime stuff. And yeah, I went to Carl's, and it was the decision of, because obviously at that time we didn't legally have to do further education, and And I mean, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't change anything for the world, because going to him, it's completely set up my career.
Yeah.
You know, everything really took off from there. But it was a hard, you know, there's no getting away from the fact it was a real hard slog.
Yeah.
You know, I was a working pupil there. So, and then obviously it was I say obviously, it was when there was the what was it called? Oh my god, you'll have to edit this. When the market crashed and everything like that. The recession. That's the word I'm looking for. And mum and dad sort of turned around and said, look, you know, we can't really support you, because obviously as a working pupil, I didn't get paid as much as I got so much with my lessons and accommodation and Rio being there and everything. I didn't get paid, so mum and dad sort of said to me, you know, we're struggling a little bit with everything, and I ended up basically working every hour God sent, and probably realistically, when I look back, wasn't in a good place.
Was it? You used to work in a club, didn't you, at night?
Yeah.
Sleep, and then work again at like 6 something, and I didn't know how you did it.
Well, I didn't do it very well. I did it for a while, and it's one of those, it's that you know, when you look back at things, and I learned a huge amount, don't get me wrong, but you know, it was when I look back, probably not a great period of my life, as much as the competition side of it and my learning and everything like that was great.
Yeah.
It was difficult. It was really difficult. And sort of now looking back at it, you know, being 26 now, and looking back sort of pretty much 10 years ago, thinking, blimey, you know,
but
it was
that age, it's like the age to do it, isn't it? Because
oh god, 100%.
You've got this weird, like, it is like you can sort of go without sleep.
Yeah.
And by the sounds of it, you were so passionate to kind of push forwards with it and like you said, it set you up with your career. So
yeah, it did 100%. But I mean, I wouldn't wish it upon anyone at all. And like, if my mum and dad listen to this, they'll probably murder me. But it was the last week that I was working at the nightclub, and I collapsed at work, not at Carl's, at the nightclub.
really?
And then obviously drove home, and I just remember seeing, sounds ridiculous and so stupid, no one ever do this, remember just seeing white doves fly across the road, which obviously was not at all, it didn't happen. And it was that sort of, you know, when you sort of have a bit of a, I can't keep doing this, realization. And
were you also competing whilst doing this? Because another bit that we need to go into is about you know, you riding for Great Britain, because was it when you were 16 you got selected?
Yeah, so I did my first Europeans in 2010. So I was, I just turned 17, and did 2 years at juniors, and then 3 years at young riders.
So the juniors was when you were at Carl's then?
Yes, yeah, I was, yeah.
Do you feel like that, such an obvious question, obviously it did, but do you feel like it really helped you in the competition side to kind of have his expert eye with how to like get ready for the competition, like riding before it? And then did he come to you, like did he come to the competitions with you, or did you go alone?
So if he was there, he'd always help me, which was fantastic. But also I think because I had, through the whole of my competition career up until going to Carl's, I'd always gone to competitions on my own. So for me, it was a very normal experience to be able to warm my horse up and do it all just with my mum and dad. So having that extra added help was a real bonus when I had it, but I never felt sort of in a different mindset if I didn't have it, which I think I was very lucky to be able to be like that with the competition side of it, because I always felt like I could go down the centre line on my own if I needed to.
Yeah, which is important, isn't it, to be able to be self-sufficient?
Yeah, absolutely. And don't get me wrong, I would never turn down the help. It's always
Sorry,
very welcomed.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about like the working on the yard. What did you feel like the best part of it was for you? I don't mean like the competing side there. I mean like work in that environment.
I think just being able to sit on the caliber of horses.
So you were like ride his horses and stuff.
So when I was there, Katie Bailey warmed up all Carl's, and then I warmed up all Charlotte's at that point when I was there. So yeah, it was
Blueberry.
Say that again.
So that was like blueberry and stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing.
So it was, I mean, I'll never ever forget that. I remember literally within my first 2 days of when I went there, ringing my mum and being like, I've sat on the leg room.
This is amazing.
Such a child.
No, I think every person would be like that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, for me, like just having had that experience to ride, well, not even ride, like just warm up the horses for Carl and Charlotte and cool them down, and just be able to watch them ride, and having the eyes of those two wonderful people literally every time you ride. Just, I mean, there's nothing like it, really, nothing like it.
So let's talk about when you left Carl's. What made you make that choice, and then what did you do after that?
So this is probably one of the biggest things I regret in life, is that I left Carl's because of the financial reasons. And I still to this day remember him saying, Olive, why did you not talk to me before you made this decision? And like, it's one of those things that, you know, it will probably haunt me till the day I die. But I'm really not very good at, well, in any situation where I say might upset someone or anything like I'm not very good at that. So I try to bury my head in the sand with anything like that. And I think I just found a job and was like, right, that's it, I've got to leave. He won't want me here if I need to be paid, so I'm going to leave. And I took that decision away from him, I suppose, by not talking to him about it. But you know, you live and you learn, don't you? So I went and worked for Gemma Appleton for about 9 months, I think it was. Which I was really lucky to work alongside Catherine Owens, who I'd also worked with at Carl's. The groom, Catherine Owens, and she's hands down one of the most incredible people to work alongside. Like, her passion and her care for the horses is just unbelievable. So, you know, again, same thing, being able to ride the caliber of horses that Gemma had, and learning the, you know, the on the ground stuff alongside Catherine as well was fantastic.
When, like, how long do you think it took you to realise that you'd made the wrong decision for you?
I think probably it took me a little while. I think there was I probably had maybe 3 years of my life, like looking back on it, where I think I was a bit lost. Like, I just didn't really know what direction I wanted my life to go in. I know I always wanted to ride, but I sort of would look at the financial aspect of it, and always wonder how on earth I was ever going to make it work. Which is why that led me on then to go.
Have like your parents, like, they were so super supportive, but like financially you were kind of out there by yourself.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, they paid for my competitions and my training and that sort of thing, and they busted a gut, and you know, I will forever be in their debt for everything they did in that respect, when, you know, they were at breaking point themselves to be able to support me to do it. Which I think was the hardest thing, and it's something that still bothers me even now, like knowing what I did to my parents and like my brother as well. Knowing sort of like what I put them all through chasing my dream, so to speak.
Quite a common, like, I definitely feel like that as well. And with my brother, I always feel like I took the attention away, and I took the financial stuff away from him. And he sometimes jokes about it, and I'm like, oh, that's a really sore joke for me.
I'm 100% with you on that one. 100% with you.
About it, because it's actually, I'm crying inside. So
exactly.
But I'm sure, like, for them, it's filled them with like so much joy seeing you be so successful.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. And like, especially now, I mean, now I'm obviously self-sufficient, and they just get to do the nice bit of enjoying. So I think it's probably, you know, at least it was all worth it in that respect.
So you were at Gemma's and then what did you do after that?
So then after that, that's when I sort of had this little bit of a sort of life drama, shall we say. And in my head, I sort of thought I needed to go back and get my A levels. Because it just, I suppose it was always a worry in my head, like I said, of how I was ever going to make anything work on my own. So I went to Hartbury and did my A levels. I must say, within 2 weeks, I realised it was a mistake.
That's quick.
Because I remember sitting in the classes, and at GCSE I was sort of like a straight A student and didn't ever have a problem. But having had the 2 years out, because I went to Hartbury at 18, was really hard, like really, really hard, because not
people who were 16 and you were the older one.
And that side of it was fine. Like, I got on with everyone really, really well. I loved my lecturers, like I loved the work, but I was having to learn A-level stuff whilst actually having to relearn all my GCSE stuff.
Really hard.
And alongside then trying to ride and compete, and I sort of was doing a little bit of teaching at that time. It was not easy.
Competing, did you go to the Europeans when you were there?
Yes.
Like, not like little shows, these are big pressures in them. Alongside trying to catch up with work.
And I think it was, you know, as I went to go and get my A levels, and sort of within a very short period of time I realized that actually I was going to have to use the 2 years to start building up my business, because realistically the A levels it was probably not going to work quite the way I wanted it to work. I mean, as it was, when I look back on it, it was a time in my life where I actually learned a huge amount, and not of actually the stuff I was meant to be learning, but everything else around life, and you know, really, I suppose, worked out the direction I wanted to go in. And I had met some really good friends who I'm still friends with now. And so in many respects it was great. In other respects I wish I'd never gone. But you know, it's one of those things. It's a decision you make, and you have to stick with it at the time. And I had 2 years of wonderful support with all my riding, and the strength and conditioning, and the support of the people there, which again helped me get to the point where I was on the European team again at Young Riders. So yeah, it was a decision I made, I guess, like I said, because I felt like I was a little bit lost and didn't really know where I wanted to go. But it did help me realise that actually the horses was definitely the route I wanted to go down. for sure. So yeah, so I spent 2 years there, and left when I was 20.
20.
Yeah.
Rio, how old was Rio when you left?
So I left in 2013. So he'd have been 12.
12. And
so I had to do a bit of maths then.
no, it's hard, isn't it? So because you're out of Young Riders at 21, aren't you?
Yeah.
I remember, it's terrible. So you did under 25 Grand Prix with him, didn't you?
I did, yes. So I went to, after Harp Rio, then went to Sandy Phillips and worked there for a year.
Yeah.
And that was the year that I had a really, really good year with Rio, my last year Young Riders. And with everything we were doing with the training with Sandy, then came out at under 25s the following year. And I was still training with Carl at this point.
Yeah.
And I remember it must have been the year I was 22. I went to Addington High Profile and did my first Inter 2. And got, I think I got about like 69% and was second off the top of my head. And I remember ringing Carl and saying, I've just done my first Inter 2 and got 69 and came second. He was like, so what time are you on in the Grand Prix tomorrow? I was like, I'm not. And he was like, Olive, for God's sake, because I was meant to be doing the Inter 1 the next day. He was like, go to the what's that called? Oh my word, office, and ask them to take you out of the Inter 1 and put you into the Grand Prix. And I was like, okay. I mean, I'd never ridden a canter zigzag at this point. So I did as he said, obviously. And went to the office and put myself in the Grand Prix and thought, oh, there's nothing like having no preparation, but there we go, we'll go with it. So then I did my first Grand Prix the next day and I think I got 65%, which I was dead chuffed with. And I managed to pull off the canter zigzag just about, so that was the biggest relief of the whole thing. But then I sort of did another couple of Grand Prix after that, and I just Rio had done so much for me in my career, and I just didn't ever feel like he struggled with a lot of the collection work. And I never really felt like his heart was in the high level, the really high level stuff. And I remember sort of saying to Carl, like, every time I went out and did a Grand Prix, it just got a bit worse and a bit worse and a bit worse. And to the point that I'd go down the centre line and, like the Inter 2 and the Grand Prix start off the same. And then if I went down the centre line and did the trot zigzag of the Inter 2, he'd stay with me and be fine for the whole test. If I went to the second corner to do the 2 steep trot half passes, he would stick his chin on his chest and just throw his front legs around. And like his tempi changes were his party piece, and he'd get onto the diagonal line and just bolt with me. And I remember the last Grand Prix I did, I came out and I was just like, he doesn't want to do this and I'm not going to make him.
Such a tough choice though.
It was, but it was also easy because I know it sounds so ridiculous, but he, like, in my head, he told me. He told me that he didn't want to do it. And like I said, if I could go out like the next week and do an Inter 2 and he'd be fine. So it was a tough decision to sort of take a step back, because he was my top horse at the time and my only horse at that time. So yes, but then I was very lucky then to lease him, which meant I got a bit of money back. So I treated my parents to a present each, and then bought myself my first horse.
Oh God, so sweet. Rio, actually, you put something on Instagram, didn't you, recently? went to the hasn't he gone to the Europeans with how many different people now, or is going, or has been short?
So he's done 5 European Championships with me. And then he went to the Europeans 3 years ago, I think, with Ellie McCarthy. And then he is now being ridden by a girl called Taka, who is taking him out of juniors. And I believe Ellie's training her alongside Jodie Phillips. And yeah, they're hopefully, fingers crossed, might be.
Must be so fun to know that you've trained a horse from this 13-year-old little kid on this gangly 5-year-old has trained him to then go and take different people, because it's not even just you, like other people can ride that horse and get those. Like that's such a success in itself.
It was, I think I was very lucky to have a horse that put up with me at that age. It all could have gone very horribly wrong.
Lucky, and I think you've got to give yourself some credit that you are an amazing rider to be able to do that.
So I would go back and undo so much of it though, and I'm like, maybe I would have got to Grand Prix if I'd have done it the way, like, obviously when you're 13 you don't actually know that much, so I made an awful lot of mistakes, an awful lot, which I spent the rest of my career with him trying to correct, but don't we all make mistakes all the time? So
definitely. So you leased Rio, and then did you have any other horses at that point?
So I rode Don Carissimo for Anne and Steve Keane for about a year, which he was a super horse. I loved riding him, like one of those horses that you just sit on and you're like, yeah, this is a Grand Prix horse through and through. And I had a really good year out at Small Tour with him. And the aim for him was the under 25 Grand Prix. And then I went skiing and had an accident. And I tore my MCL and had a grade 2 tear on my ACL, and obviously was not allowed to ride for a while. And he in that time, Darcy went to Gareth Hughes, and obviously Gareth is an awful lot better rider than I am, and the horse stayed with Gareth Hughes, which and then it was one of those things, as heart-wrenching as it was to then actually watch the horse 2 years later go on to represent Great Britain on a senior team at the Europeans. I think it was I'm pretty sure it's Europeans. Was obviously hard but amazing at the same time, and I was so pleased for them all, that he'd got to that point, and also in a selfish way pleased with my feel that I sort of once I sat on the horse knew that actually that's the way direction he was going, but yeah, I mean it was hard, and again a time in my life where it was going back to the money side of it again, and having all I had was babies, and at that time very average babies as well, not ones you'd look at and go, oh, this is destined for great things.
So
but
how did you pick yourself up from that, sort of going from riding at Small Tour, like aiming to go to under 25s, to have that it's so quickly as well taken away?
I went to the gym a lot. I really immersed myself in my coaching, and I went and got my personal training qualification, and I went and got my sports massage qualification, so that I sort of had more strings to my bow, so to speak, because like I say, I was really still I'm into my gym stuff, and it was something that I felt complemented what my passions in life were, and being able to help people in that sense.
mean, what a great thing though, like what a great mindset. Like a lot of people would have just sulked and been like, that's it,
I did.
Yeah, but I mean, look at what you then went and did.
Yeah.
You then like thought, I remember I went to Carl's and I don't know where it came into conversation. He just was like, oh, how's Olivia? I mean, you, not me. And
Yeah.
I was like, she's done like her PT thing.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, she's always been one that's like gone and got it. And I was like, yes, so true. So happy that you were
I'm
like,
not very good at like feeling sorry for myself and doing nothing. Like I'm always like, right, what can I do to make it better?
yeah.
And like, don't get me wrong, I mean, my other half will tell you that I will sit around and mope and be like, I can't do it, I don't know what to do, and he'll always sit there and go, you do know in 24 hours you will be absolutely fine and you'll have found a way to make it all better. And I'm like, I know, but just let me sit here and drink wine and moan.
Right here for a bit. So was one of these young horses Rocky, or am I jumping ahead?
No, Rocky was the first horse I bought myself with my Rio money.
Oh, that's the best feeling, isn't it?
Yeah. So I remember I sort of a couple of friends of mine, they knew I was sort of on the lookout for another horse, and you know, as much as I had some money from Rio, it wasn't a lot. And so realistically, I was going to buy something young and something unbacked. And some friends of mine sent me a video of a horse they'd seen in Germany and just said, look, we think this is quite smart, you know, she's very cheap because she's so small, but it might be worth a punt. So I watched the video and got some video of her sort of walking and trotting up, and you know, some photos of her limbs and feet and everything. And I think the next week I bought her. And she stayed in Germany for another 18 months, and then came over, and I vividly remember her coming off the lorry and being like, oh no, I've bought a pony. Because she was tiny. Tiny weeny. I mean, she looked like a 2-year-old when she was coming into her 4th year. And I mean, she was this like terrified little thing. And then with the help of a lovely lady called Melissa Gerard, we backed her. And I remember, say that again.
That's the yard you're at the moment.
It's the yard I was at when I was up in Stroud. So it's I moved before I moved down to Hampshire. It's the yard I was at. I remember like one of the times leaning over her and her just launching into the air and me going flying backwards, thinking, oh, what have I done?
Oh no.
But actually, from the moment my bum hit the saddle, even to this day, she's probably worse now actually for being sharp than she was for the first like 2 years of her life, of her ridden life.
The video of you letting her loose jump first time.
Yeah.
And it was like, what on earth? What's here? And then it didn't take long, did it? She got it.
And I remember saying, like, I mean, everyone that knew anything about horses must have thought I was totally mad, because after about 3 months of her being under saddle, I was like, I'll get this to Grand Prix.
Really?
And like, even my best friend Emma Corbett, like, she only said to me probably about a month ago, having watched a video of Rocky passaging, she was like, I now understand why you've been saying it all along.
I get it.
And yeah, like, she's been one of those that's always given me like the feeling that you know, she's not the most talented horse in the world, but what she doesn't have in talent, my word, she makes up for in her brain and her rideability and her trainability. And I love her. Like, I never thought I'd ever find a horse that would top Rio, but she's just my dream. She is.
So what I was gonna also say is you do a lot of like taking her cantering in fields, like cross country, because I watched your journey with her, like from when she was a youngster, and you did that quite early on, didn't you?
Yes.
I find that important with the horses to kind of, because you know you're a dressage rider, but also just different things with them.
Yeah, 100%. Like for me, my sort of philosophy with them is like they have to enjoy their work, they have to want to work. And I mean, I love my dressage, don't get me wrong, but I get bored of it being in the school all the time. So I'm like, gosh, what must you feel like?
Yeah.
So I do try and really make their work life varied.
Yeah.
I mean, haven't jumped Rocky for a little while because she does terrify the life out of me jumping. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm like, yeah, no, I don't want to jump her today. And the lovely ladies on the yard are like, you'll be fine, just do it. And I'm like, I can't do it. But yeah, no, I make a real thing of like doing canter work in the fields, and it's I think it's really, really important for their brains. It's with Rio throughout his whole career, I did a bit of everything with him, and I always remember when I was on the world class program, the vet at the time was John McEwen, and the whole team of practitioners always would say to me, you know, he's for the mileage he'd done and everything like that, like he was so good through his body, but they were adamant it was because of how I cross-train him. Because he had been exposed to a bit of everything right from the word go. And it's something I've always taken on board with all my horses. And I think especially in the first stages of their ridden career, you know, it's much easier and nicer for them to get them out and go hacking and go down the road and go and do a little bit of, even if it's not jumping the cross country jumps, just seeing the world without the pressure of being in a dressage arena.
And it's good at a young age, isn't it? Otherwise it's almost just shocks them a bit.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, there'll be a lot of people that disagree with me, but you know, I have my way. And
I didn't do that for different reasons, and I tried to, because then I became like, I want to do that with my horses, and I tried to take the older ones, but they had so much strength, and they were like, what is going on? It's so difficult for me to like get them into it. It's almost
absolutely.
So moving forwards with Rocky, what are your plans with her? Like, where do you see it going?
So I mean, in an absolute dream world, this year is sort of all going to be about education and building her strength, because obviously she's only 7 this year. So as much as she does know, you know, a lot of things, you know, she is training a little bit of everything out of the Grand Prix. Not because she's drilled, but because she just takes to everything like a duck to water. So I mean, my plan is just to, like I say, get us stronger this year. I'm really excited that British Dressage have brought out a new 7-year-old class this year at the Nationals. So they've got the 7-year-old advanced medium class, so that's my goal with her for this year, is to qualify her for that. And then potentially I'll aim for the young horse Prix St George at Hartbury Premier League in July, but that will only be if she's ready for it. Like, I'm not gonna push her for it. It will be a case of, if I feel like he can get through without holding a hand, then great. If I feel like I'm gonna have to carry her around, then I won't do it. And then next year, aim to do some small tour internationals, and again keep building her strength and exposing her to the sort of bigger shows, because that's the one thing, she is very noise sensitive. So that side of it is gonna take a bit of work. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, then she might make her Grand Prix debut in a couple of years.
So excited.
So yeah, we'll see. It's, you know, it's like, it's a dream, isn't it, at the moment? And like everything with horses, you have plan A,
You
B,
have to
C,
do
D,
it.
E, F, all the way down to Z, and then you've probably got to double it again.
You have another youngster, don't you?
I have got a few. So I've got too many that I can afford to pay for, but hey ho, that's life. Just work harder. I have got 2 4-year-olds, one of which has actually just been bought by some clients and friends of mine, and he is Vivaldi De Niro.
Wow.
He's a big boy. He's about 17.2 at 4, but he's lovely, like really really smart horse. And I'm very very excited about him. So but again, like for me, their 4th year is just about enjoying life and under saddle and doing lots of hacking, and no pressure. If he's ready to do young horse classes, I might take him out just to go and see the show circuit. If not, then he'll stay at home. And then I've also got a relation to Rocky, who I bought from the same breeders, called Ziggy. I am currently just backing her at the moment, which is fun. she's lovely. She's just backing. I must say, I don't think I'm ever going to try and back a horse at this time of year ever again. Not without having an indoor school anyway.
No, that's not fun.
It's not fun. I mean, she's not awful at all, bless her, but just especially with the wind we've had, like she's a little bit noise sensitive like her sister, so yeah, that's a bit fun at times. So I've got those 2 that are 4 this year, and then I've got a lovely 3-year-old who is Apache de Tori. So she's quite little, like Rocky was, so she'll probably stay in the field till this time next year, and then I'll back her. And then I have a lovely Glamourdale colt, who I bred.
Did you?
So yeah, so that will sort of watch this space with those ones, and see where they all head. I mean, I realistically do have to probably sell 1, if not 2. Because especially with what Rocky's going to do hopefully next year, like I got to have some money, and my other half and I do want to buy a house at some point in our life. So
and it's as well a lot. Sometimes when you get that many, there's always one that you don't think is going to quite make it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it sort of works out.
Absolutely.
The other thing as well, are you all right on time, by the way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you're so good at this. You're so good at talking. It's great. So the business side of stuff.
Yeah.
You financially support yourself now.
Yes.
How do you make that work? Is it mainly coaching that your income comes from?
I do a lot of riding. Yeah, riding other people's horses. So I do a fair amount of that, alongside the coaching.
Yeah.
And then with my PT qualification and my sports massage qualification, I do a bit with that as well. The coaching and the riding are the sort of primary income sort of things. And then doing the rider fitness and the sports massage stuff sort of supplements it. Which, especially with the weather as it can be sometimes, having something else has just made a big difference to sort of my income and that sort of thing. But yeah,
you have like a plan with your business? Do you want to like expand it, or do you want to just keep it how it is? And like with the horses and stuff, do you think like eventually you'd kind of get your own yard, or do you think it's always going to be sort of like renting?
to be honest with you,
A lot of
the answer to that question depends if I ever win the lottery.
So
Basically.
a big on financial side, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, in absolute dream world, what I'd love to do is set up like a centre where I could incorporate all three together, or all four together, should I say? And you know, having a facility where a rider can come and have coaching and have their horse on site and have access to a gym on site. And you know, it's one of those things with riders, and it is heading a lot more down the route that finally riders are starting to think of themselves as athletes rather than just the horses.
10 years ago, like dressage riders used to be like drinking a glass of wine with a cigarette, didn't they? And that was
Exactly.
And now it's actually, we need to think about ourselves a little bit more.
100%. And you know, it's such a thing with riders that, you know, so many of us struggle with time to go and do stuff like going to the gym and that sort of thing. And I just would love the idea of having that on site, that, you know, someone can have their horse with me and get back from work and have it tacked up and jump on the horse and ride, and then be able to go and do like a class at the gym with me, and like just that sort of thing. I just would, in a dream world, that's what I'd love to do. Realistically, I think I'll just keep ticking along with what I'm doing at the minute, and just developing myself personally. And like there's still a lot more courses and things I want to go and do to really develop my knowledge, and just really concentrate on myself for a few years, and then sort of see where life takes me, I guess.
Amazing. Like coming to the end of the questions now, what's the thing that motivates you the most, like each day? Do you feel that sort of keeps pushing you, or like when life throws you a curveball?
I think it's so many things, and it always is a lot of the time it's different things, you know. One thing that I love more than anything is obviously the progress that the young horses make, you know, getting on them, and just like, as silly as it sounds, like having a day where all your transitions are really easy, or like something you've been struggling with, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I didn't have to worry about that today. Like that for me is a massive thing. And I guess another big thing is like my family, and you know, my granddad was really inspirational to me. Like he was a Olympic yachtsman back in the day, and so like knowing what he's done is always been like, riding down the centre line of the Olympics, I think, is a lot of people's dream. And you know, I'm very realistic about the chances of it happening are probably slim, but even still, it's a nice dream to have. And you know, even if I get to the end of my ridden career, and actually what I've managed to do is be on a senior team, then I will be more happy than anything. You know, at the end of the day, everything, I'm so grateful for what I have achieved so far, that everything else is a bonus. And you know, I was very, very lucky to meet my other half sort of 3.5 years ago, and actually until that point, like my whole life revolved around horses. And if something went a little bit wrong in the day, like I'd not struggle with it, but you know, it always felt a little bit like the end of the world. And now, like, I come home, and because he's not horsey, it's nice to just have that sort of, I know it sounds ridiculous, but like the realization of, actually, if you've had a bad day with your horses, like nothing's gonna get hurt, no one's gonna die, like life is still going to carry on absolutely the same. And it's I think, you know, that's also from when you say with the like having a curveball thrown at you, I think it's having that support network around you, that, you know, when you personally feel like the world's going to end and everyone's out to get you and life's rubbish and this, that and the other, like having those people around you to just be like, no, come on, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Like my best friend is also does the same as I do, and like I don't think, and I mean she would say it the same as well.
Yeah.
I don't think either of us would probably still be in the industry without each other.
I'm gonna get her to the podcast soon as well.
Yeah, you should. Because I think we, like, any problems we have, we are totally like 100% honest with each other about, like, if anything's going really badly, if you're having a bad day where you just want to jack it all in and go and just have an office job and not have the hassle of horses and trying to keep everyone happy. And it's, I think, like I say, having that support network around you is such a massive factor, that even if you do have a bad day, like, you've always got people that can help you to come out of it.
So this is the last question. We got there. You have to think about this hypothetically and ask everyone this. If you could bring your 16-year-old self, what 3 bits of advice would you give her? It can be life advice, it doesn't have to be about horses.
Okay. I think one massive thing would be to try not to worry about what everyone else thinks, and just focus on yourself the whole time. Not be selfish, obviously, but really focus on yourself, and not try and people please, basically. Because actually you drown yourself trying to people please.
Definitely.
And so definitely that. Another piece of advice I'd give myself, to not think that it is okay to work yourself into the ground, to not feel that it is looked upon in our industry that that's what you have to do.
Yes, this is such a strong piece of advice.
Because I think, like, even sometimes now I feel guilty about having a day off, and I'm like, why? Like, what is this about? I can't feel guilty for having some me time.
Like, no, it's normal,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that would be definitely a massive thing. And then I think the third bit would be to really sort of savor the good things, because especially with horses, like, more often than not, something hasn't gone right or hasn't gone to plan. And the successes for a lot of us are sort of few and far between, and to really, like, sort of hold on and cherish those really sort of important moments, because actually those sort of things, when you're having a rubbish day, can make that day feel a little bit better.
Love that.
And I think those would be the 3 things I'd say for sure would have maybe made a difference. But then again, I probably wouldn't have listened to myself at that point.
No. And then you might not have learnt them anyway if you hadn't.
No, exactly.
So if anybody wants to follow your journey, where will they find you?
So I have Instagram, and I'm just Olivia Oakley on Instagram, and then on Facebook it's Olivia Oakley Dressage and Fitness.
Cool.
And then I have Twitter as well, but I don't really use that so much.
It's just no fun.
No, exactly.
Well, I just want to thank you so much for doing this. It was so interesting listening.
No,
I think when you look on social media, I know when I was younger, I was almost jealous of you, because I was like, wow, like I saw you and I was like, such a good rider and all the success. but you never know what's going on behind closed doors and with people. So it's a lesson for me, isn't it, as well, just to be like, everybody's going through their different stuff. And yeah, it's just amazing.
Yeah,
Really inspiring.
Oh, thank you. No, it's life's rubbish for everyone at times, isn't it? At the end of the day, and I think we've all, like, it's especially at the moment in the industry, like there's so much negativity and nastiness, and it's really it's not pleasant. It's not nice to see. It's not nice to read, and you know, I think the more that everyone within the industry can support each other, sorry, it will help themselves, because, you know, at the end of the day, we are all in it together, and we all could take screenshots of videos we've taken and make it look like we're the worst riders in the world. That's just a fact.
Yeah, definitely. Amazing. Thank you so much for doing this.
No, thank you.
So there you have it, guys. That is the end of the interview with Olivia. I really hope it inspired you as much as it inspired me. Just keep chasing your dreams, whatever happens, whatever things are thrown at you, you can get over them. And I just think as well, at the end, she gave some solid advice on the things she would tell her 16-year-old self. So I would absolutely love if you guys could please share these podcasts, because I think they're so important for opening up conversations in the equestrian world for professional riders, for amateur riders, just to all know that they're not alone, that we all go through these emotions, we all go through these tough times, but if we stick together and support each other, it can be so much more enjoyable. And yeah, just really embracing our vulnerability within the equestrian world, and yeah, being honest and open. So please share this. If you know someone who you think it would help as well, do send it to them. Or like I said before, just share it onto your social media. And yeah, I can't wait to bring the next one to you guys. This is a series that's just going to keep on running until I run out of riders. So yeah, anyway, I will see you for the next one.